Hello, and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. This podcast is dedicated to bringing you the world's best experts in mind, body, and spirit connection to create that soul shaking love with yourself and with your true love. And I'm your host, Valerie Green from CoachValerieGreen.com. And today I'm really excited to interview Glenn Sandefur. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, how are you, Valerie?
I'm awesome. And we were just chatting before, but you want to say how you're doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a great day, had a great week, great weekend, and just really looking forward to connecting with you and your audience on this topic.
Thank you. And as I was saying, and we were joking around, but I think that Glenn is a really good example of how to balance working in a professional career and being ambitious and goal-driven, and at the same time, having a family life that feels fulfilling. Because that's, I
Mhm.
think, the contradiction and that most people don't know how to navigate being professionals, working in the corporate world, really wanting to provide for their families. And at the same time, that doesn't necessarily leave time or skills to not only attract a great partner, but be a great parent and build a family together. And so those are the questions that Glenn has really endeavored to answer in his life and in his career. So the topic of this interview is how to get great dating outcomes in a modern world.
Yes, the answer is stay single.
which
No.
which is what most, I mean, a lot of people, a lot of frustrated people do choose to stay single, especially
Hmm.
because it takes a lot more than it used to build a career, and so people aren't
Hmm.
necessarily able to take time to start a family until their mid 30s sometimes. And by then, they put pressure on finding a relationship and get frustrated.
Hmm.
And some people think, do I have to stay single? And I imagine that your answer is no, but let's talk
No, you
about
don't
that.
have to stay single. You do not have to stay single. We believe that to get the great dating outcomes that you want, you have to just know who you are, know what you want, know what you qualify for, and then with whom you qualify for, know what they want from you. That can be done at any age. That can be done with any career. That can be done with any socioeconomic background. That can be done in any race. That is really just taking time to be introspective, willing to put in the work to fix the things that are broken or damaged, and then, make a way and make room for someone to come in and share your life.
Exactly. And, that's a piece of cake, right?
It's so easy. Every a caveman can do it. Isn't that the old Geico ad? So,
Yeah. And I know you were sharing a little bit about your story before, and I think
mhm.
that's just really inspiring that you had to learn the hard way. And so, how did you come to discover the balance yourself?
Yeah, so that, I mean, like with most things, people don't like to admit it, it was through failure. So I had a marriage, it was short. I got divorced at the beginning of the 2010s. And from that, I did around 2 years of therapy to determine what went wrong. And what I found out went wrong was it was all me. So in society today, if things don't go well, it's our job, it's our boss, it's our coworkers, it's our teammates, it's our significant other, it's our girlfriend or our boyfriend. That wasn't the takeaway that I had. There were some things that I had overlooked. There were some things that I had not prepared for. There were some things that I didn't consider that led to what was the breakdown of that relationship. After that 2 years of therapy, after my pastor and after my counselor said, "All right, we think it's time for you to get back out there," I did not want to get out there. I played. I played around. I was what we call the F boy in our books, and had a good time doing it, or so I thought. And then went back to the lessons that I had. It basically said, no, this is not the call on your life. This is not where you want to be. This is not where you need to be, because there's a whole legacy behind you that you need to start preparing for. So I did the work, I lived the work, and then I began with the process of what we have with parts 1 and 2 of our books, just in my dating with now my wife. I met her and I realized, oh, I can't date her the way that I dated before. So I had to figure out what are the new rules around this. She is, and at that time was still very successful, driving towards some goals she set for herself professionally. She's achieved all of them. And so the things that she needed was completely different than what society said that she needed.
Mm.
And it's different than, and how in order to make that relationship work, it was different than what society said I needed to do. And so as I put in that work, I started writing things down. I had little blogs. I had little posts on Facebook that, got 3 likes to 100 likes. And just talking to people led to me realizing there may be something here. I mirror that with the fact that I've worked for 20 years in corporate settings. I know I look 20, but for 20 years plus, I've been working, and I've had the privilege to serve as a 2-time accidental consultant with my own practice. I've represented a number of great organizations throughout the Midwest, Southeast, and West Coast. I've had the ability to work right now in an industry in which I love. And I found out the things I was struggling with, and I had struggled with both in the first marriage, post divorce, and then dating, and with the eventual engagement of my wife, everybody else was dealing with. So as I was providing one-to-ones with team members, the more successful they got and the more focused and dedicated they were professionally, their relationship outcomes started to dwindle and diminish. And with that, I started coaching in those one-to-one sessions only at work around the total person, the total man, the total woman. And the first thing I would ask is, how's everything going at home? How's your relationship? Why are you not dating? And that's kind of opposite of what corporate America would say at that time, 20 years ago, and even may say today. But now my teams, my former clients, my vendors, they all know they're going to get asked those questions if we're sitting down having a drink. I don't want to talk about the fourth quarter. I don't want to talk about new markets that we're going to explore. I don't want to talk about new technologies that are going to drive profitability. I want to talk about how's everything going, because when you are the best version of yourself, you bring your best self to work, and that work shows up on the bottom line for every business.
Absolutely. And it takes so much courage, first of all, to do that deep dive that you did after you got divorced, to discover what you actually need. Because I think most people don't go deep enough to discover what they actually need. They only know what they want. And it really sounds like you did that deep work. Therefore, you could clarify, okay, how is my authentic self different than what society expects of me? How can I uniquely create the ambition in my career, as well as drop into my heart when I'm relating with my partner? It is a skill to build. And it sounds like that's what you're good at navigating.
Yeah, sounds like it. No, I would absolutely say that, because, just knowing what you want is, after who you are, and just kind of in the framework of what we do with the book series. And what I wanted, what I believe she wanted, was what we both wanted at 16. What you want at 16 is not what you need at 65.
Right.
So why are you making a buying decision for 65 with a 16-year-old's mindset and taste?
Exactly.
And when you make those decisions, and your audience will agree, it ends up being a heartbreak for one or both parties, because I made an immature decision. We make immature decisions, and we expect mature outcomes.
Right.
And you're not going to receive a mature outcome with an immature person.
Yeah, I mean, no judgment, because I did the same thing with, my previous relationships. So, sometimes you got to learn the hard way, which is why I want to decrease the learning curve for people as well. But, not that we're perfect now, but it's about finding the balance.
It's about finding the balance. And I think, for you specifically in your audience, I think they know that, but the balance is key. I will say this for anyone who comes over here on our side. If you go to my channels, if you read our books, what you'll learn is that we believe one thing, and this is the line, so everyone knows it, so no one can be confused. We believe that the best outcome for two people is a relationship between one man, one woman, with long-term marriage, children, and legacy as a result. If you look at the problems we have societal-wise, we have a group of young men who don't believe they can do that. Right. We have a group of women who don't believe they can get that, or that that's available. So everyone is diverged from a simple truth that's worked for a million years. And so when I am speaking, I want people to get into the flow and begin to start considering marriage, because I believe that marriage is what the ultimate goal should be for people. Now, let's say some people are like, I don't want to get married. Okay. My next question is why? And then we go into a bunch of reasons that have nothing to do with the institution of marriage. It has nothing to do with the outcome, the positive outcomes of marriage. It has to do with everything society has told you marriage is. If no one tells anyone, no one tells you today, listen, or viewer, marriage is a good thing.
Yeah,
it's actually the best thing for friends of mine and professional colleagues. They're what I call it in my next book. It's called the buying decision. Is the buying decision on who you choose is going to determine how much wealth you can build and how much wealth you qualify for. And sometimes when later as we talk about the types of men and types of women, when you pick that's something that is unaligned or you don't go across the line of qualified opportunity or qualified buyer, you end up losing more than you end up gaining.
Yep. Yeah, because I mean, one's relationship and one's partner choice, if you can really build that secure attachment, then that's what the research shows. You'll actually be more successful out in the world. But if you're arguing all the time and triggered all the time and suffering, then you're not really going to create the results that you want in the rest of your life. So I agree with that. And I have a lot that I could say about marriage, but this is to highlight you. But my husband didn't want to get married when we met either. And it has a lot to do with how our culture defines marriage out of obligation versus what's actually authentic and how do we want to do it in our own unique way. And I think that, asking ourselves those deep questions, not just going on what we wanted when we were younger, actually really asking ourselves the deep questions to figure out what will be truly fulfilling is what I imagine the buying decision for you is about. But before we get into that, I'd like to just stay focused on the dating mission, because I know that you really run into some common challenges that you see in modern dating. So let's just go over what you see that those are.
Yeah, so the common challenges in dating that people are misaligned. Over here, we believe in order to get a great dating outcome, you have to make sure that you get who you're qualified for. Know who you are, know what you want, and know who you qualify for. There are 6 basic type of men and women. So for the entertainment of the audience, I'm going to go through from bottom, and I said bottom, to top. So bottom, boy and girl. Boys and
these are archetypes, but I think it's really useful to
these are archetypes, people. Yeah, this is not saying that boys are not, and you know what, if that's what they want to write, let them write that. But the archetype is a boy and a girl. So what do we know about boys and girls? Boys and girls are adolescent, they're immature, they like boyish and girlish things. In part 1 of the book, I talk about how the first time most boys realize and start liking girls is around 6th, 7th grade. I think it's 6th or 7th grade. And I said, if I went off of 6th and 7th grade, the girls liked a different boy every 2 weeks.
Totally.
They were concerned about, if they were into makeup, if they were into hair, if they were into clothes, if they were into fashion, if they were into music, if they were into dance, and then if they were in their friends, that's all that mattered. Boys were into being with the guys, playing sports, playing video games, being outdoors, running, grunting, play fighting, doing whatever. And if that's what you get, you're going to get an adolescent or an immature outcome. So we throw those people out. If you're with a boy or a girl, you're not going to get any great dating outcome. And that's a you problem. So get them out. The next is everyone's favorite. It's the city boy or the city girl. They're called something else in part 1 of the book, but I'm trying to clean it up for the church. So it's the city boy and the city girl are for the streets. They have the 3 C's. They're charismatic, they have great conversation, and they provide great chemistry. So men and women who are dating a city boy or a city girl get swept up in that charisma, in that what the young people are telling me, resident young person number 1, the Riz. You're getting caught up in the Riz. And so since you're now caught up in the Riz, you make terrible decisions and long-term decisions with the city boy. The city boy is only interested in conquest. The city girl is only interested in elevation of self and the people that she holds dear. They're always going to be out. They're always at the lounge. They're always at the gym. They're always spending money. They're always taking girls trips. They're always doing all of the things that are not conducive to building a lasting relationship and getting to the outcome of marriage. But what we find is, because of the three C's, women in particular with the city boy linger here. Women in general spend time with the city boy, get their heart broken or hurt, and then they say all men are city, and they're not. So we go from city, we kick them off the bus because let the city be for the city, let them be for the streets, as the people say. Let them be for the city and the streets. So then we go over to guys and girls, or gals and girls. And so the gals and the girls, there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing particularly, impressive with them. They're comfortable just living a regular, ordinary life. I say this group is a challenge to the men and women that we talk about because they are accommodating. So they are so accommodating to when they get a certain person, they go above and beyond to show and prove. And then the person who feels stuck in their connection with that person because it's a guy, he's a nice guy, she's a nice gal. I don't want to break her heart, I don't want to hurt her, and so they linger for way too long, and they need to put that person out of their misery so a gal and a guy can be together. I like to say to the women in particular, you work with him, he claims to be your work husband, he ices off your car at the job. You see him at the gym, you see him at Starbucks, you see them at Target, but there's nothing that will happen, or there's nothing that you believe will lead you to make a buying decision there. And so it takes you to be under the extreme influence to even consider this type of connection. So let's throw off the gal, let's throw off the guy.
And I don't know if you find that, but a lot of people bounce around between the first two because the city boy or girl is exciting, but the guy and the gal are safe. And so after someone exciting, you want safe, and after someone safe, you want exciting. But if you just bounce between those two archetypes, you're never going to find what you actually need.
Never going to get that. And that's an excellent point, which leads us to the next group because we're at 3 out of 4. So the next group is the largest group. Male and female. Now, people are like, well, what does that mean?
Right. That's why I'm glad we clarified their archetypes, because obviously we all know what male and female is.
So, I mean, we know what male and female is, but male and female archetypes for men and women in a dating relationship,
right?
The thing that defines them is trauma and emotional. So the guy in this situation, or the male, he's always one phone call, one meeting, one relationship, one job offer, one sale away from feeling like he's arrived. But the reality is he's not a man yet. And men positively assert themselves in the world respectfully of people around them, build relationship, build consensus, and extract profit from the market. Males can't do that. Males need somebody else to help drag them along.
Right.
And males end up with females who can excel and make really good money at a job or with a small business, but she is not healed from any emotional trauma. So her emotional trauma is the responsibility of everyone else in her life to help her manage.
Right.
So she pushes emotional trauma and emotional baggage. You just don't understand. You don't know what I've been through. It's just really hard for me. And the thing is, this group above all needs therapy, because both of them are spending so much time and spinning their wheels asking everyone to accommodate them. It exhausts everyone. And so we don't need to suffer fools. So why are we sitting here going through this yet again, the same discussion? You're still stuck in your job. You're still stuck with your decision. You can't seem to graduate. You want to lose weight, but you can't. You want to go to the next level professionally, but you can't, they can't. And so they're in a repetitive cycle, and then they end up together and everyone is miserable. They're miserable. Their kids are miserable. Their friends see how miserable they are, and they end up leaving a trail. Here's what I will say. Once we go past the line to men and women, and I like to define men and women in 3 ways, but once we go past the line, that's where qualification for great relationship outcomes come. The
Mhm.
rest of this group needs to just be together and be miserable. As I say, they need to swim in the kiddie pool and then let all the adults come in the deep end. So now we have men and women. All right. So the first is modern. Now, modern women is a negative term in the relationship space right now. I had this book completed in 2019, and then I was about to bring it out, and then all red pill broke loose, and I was like, oof, I don't want to get caught up in that. So I held on to the book for 2 years in order to let some of the issues around communication on modern men and modern women die down. But what I say modern men and modern women are is they're qualified for a great relationship outcome. They are basically defined around 50-50 or partnership. So the modern woman is educated. She has her own, she pays her own bills. She's done it for a while. She is the woman that you talked about earlier in our conversation about she has great, professional success, but now she's getting older. She's realizing, hey, I want to settle. I want to settle down. A modern woman may have been a city girl or a female. She's gotten away from the city and moved up, or she's gotten over the emotional trauma and doesn't hold people responsible for her trauma and everyone else's past. So she's a modern woman. She's complete. She's whole emotionally, and she's looking for a partner. Everything is variable and everything is up for discussion. This is what drives people in the relationship space crazy about this type of woman. Why do we have to talk about this? Because she's 50-50 partner. She makes 78,000. She makes 120,000. She makes 200,000. She's not just going to give up anything that she has, and she expects someone to know that. That's why she's best with a modern man. A modern man is okay with 50-50. He's evolved past saying it's got to be traditional, it's got to be my way or the highway, or you got to let me do what I want to do. He's past that. He's like, no, the relationship outcome is what I'm seeking. And if it's 50-50, let's discuss how we get to 50-50. And so he works, he has a career, he's self-sufficient, he's past emotional traumas, he's not a mama's boy, doesn't have kids all over. He's doing well, and then they can go and have a great relationship outcome. Now, in the archetype space, I made an asterisk for traditional or trad wives, trad husbands. It's really simple. Think 1952.
Right.
Dad goes to work. Dad is the provider, the protector. He's the priest in the home, and he professes publicly his love and support for his family and his wife in particular. And wife takes care of the home. I'm not working. Don't ask me to work. That's your job. I'm here to take care of the kids. I'm here to give you 2 kids. I'm here to drive the car that I want. I'm not going to make things hard for you as far as I want a trip to Dubai every year, but she's going to expect some things and that you just work with her on that. As I talk about in part 1 of the book of how we got here, the traditional is the starting point because that was both of my grandfathers and my grandmothers. They both came from a traditional. Yeah.
Sorry, I think it's in our collective unconscious. And so that's, when I teach women how to connect to their feminine energy, a lot of the old programming comes up that they're supposed to be submissive, etc. And that comes from that old archetype. And so then it's about reconnecting to what's actually authentic femininity, which can look many different ways, which is why I imagine there's 3 types of men and women. As you define them, because it's not traditional, but it's authentic.
Yeah. And so, and that's a good point because the authenticity shows up once you move over the line to men and women. So we talked about modern and what modern is and what it isn't. We talked about traditional, which is the special asterisk. And then we go into the most discussed group, high value. High value is less than 10% of any market. End of story. Most companies, when they do sales conferences, only take the top 1%. So when you start looking at the list that I've done a couple of reactions videos on TMG Reacts, it is hilarious. The things that are on there just as minimum standards in order to qualify for a conversation. What I am saying is most men and women are not high value. Why do you have such high standards? Who do you think you are? And most people don't like to hear that because we stopped asking that question in 1989. We started letting everyone tell us who they were. And when you look at the high value designation, we'll start from the man standpoint. Only for the man does the money start the qualification. So in part one of the book, people ask me to identify it, and based on research, we've said that anyone who is netting 12,500 adjusted for inflation when you watch this video is qualified financially, because with that type of money, you can start throwing money at small problems. So just think of anyone who's listening right now, who's middle class, who's making $50,000 a year. If you can triple that, what would that do from a mindset standpoint? I won't have to worry about childcare. I don't have to worry about my house. I don't have to worry about my car payment. I don't have to worry about an emergency. So now,
and adjusted for location, because like not really
adjusted for location.
but
so
like
I'm saying, yes. so like I'm saying, it's okay to to add that caveat. But if someone's in LA, you got to figure it out for LA.
Exactly.
But
and the city is an archetype. Like you can have mature relationships in cities, but anyway, yes.
Are people saying that we can't have mature relationships in cities?
No, I just want to clarify that the city is an archetype.
Oh, okay. So when we look at, boy, you have to provide a lot of asterisk qualifications. That's funny.
Well, I coach a lot of people that live in cities, and people are multitasking, so we want to make sure that it's defined as archetypes, that you're not saying people can't live in cities, but I think that what you're saying is that like
relationship. There it is. I said what I'm saying. No,
but no, I think what you're saying, it really makes sense, because when somebody is looking for somebody who makes a certain amount of money, a lot of times that comes from that 16-year-old list that you're talking about. And money is obviously important, and lifestyle and legacy are really important questions, as long as you're going deep enough and not asking yourself for your wants and you're looking at your needs, right? So anyway, I want to ask you to continue, but I wanted to say that.
Okay, you wanted to interject. It's welcome. So as far as for a high value man, that's when it starts. And then what defines the high value relationship, high value men and women, is 100% being dialed into purpose and legacy. So different from traditional, different from modern, although modern is the group that can accelerate the quickest to high value if they choose to. When you take a look at someone being dialed into purpose, they don't work just to work and to say that they're the VP. They work because as a VP, you serve everyone around you, and you work for everyone who works for you and all of your peers' employees. The reality is, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a business and you're netting $5 million a year, you don't work for yourself. You work for your clients, you work for your team members, you work for your staff and your vendors. So with that mindset, you make decisions with the total group and the people that are aligned to you in mind. You don't make decisions on an island. You don't make decisions on what's best for me and what's best for my business and my household. That is city boy and male thinking from what I say to men.
It's
if you are going to
example.
Yeah, so if you're going to be in a position to elevate into high value status, you have to have the money, you have to be dialed into purpose. Then you have to be a person of high character. And this is where I say the fame component has done a disservice to this discussion. If you are an actor, an athlete, a politician, or I say preacher, fame allows you to get different outcomes with your relationship. But what they do qualify for is purpose and money. But then they struggle with character. And they struggle with character because they have more options than a regular modern man or traditional man who's trying to elevate. The way that those four get their money, it comes in large, they're broke, and then it comes in a large wave. And if they haven't prepared for it, it breaks them. Yep. So then we say that the character has to be of high regard. They have to be well known, they have to be well respected. They have to be community focused. They have to have a community that knows who they are, and people look to them for support, for encouragement, for mentorship. And then they have to have a tribe of other high value men outside of their own industry or profession that help encourage them to stay focused on purpose. Now, with that type of man, it requires you as a high value woman to be dialed into purpose. High value women work. High value women sometimes make a lot of money. High value women are mothers. Some high value women are not mothers. But what they all are is we're getting to this goal. The
Mhm.
best illustration I can use on this, if you have not seen the movie, Any Given Sunday with Jamie Foxx and Dennis Quaid, the wife of Dennis Quaid, who plays a Dan Marino style character for the Miami professional franchise, is talking to her about retiring because he got hurt. She said, I will not sit here and listen to this. We have sacrificed too much, and you're going to get back out there and you're going to win another championship because I'm not going to let their kids see their dad quit. That's not modern. That's not traditional. That is high value. You're not a second year rookie or second year quarterback that's a flash in the pan, which he was competing against with Jamie Foxx. You are an established championship winning MVP caliber quarterback. Go out there and do what we have all, kids, wife, family included, sacrificed for you. And on top of all of that, since the man is of high character, high regard, resources, not a problem. Whatever you want, wife, kids, whatever they want, within reason. Whatever you want to do with the community, wherever you want to go with the house. And then, so to your point earlier, that is the part that's attractive to people who make lists. That is why they all want to be high value. They only care about resources. I tell people all the time, you can go get resources and be a city boy. I know plenty of city boys right here in Nashville, Tennessee, that are making really good money. They will never commit to a woman. They just don't have it within the mindset to be able to connect. And then the final piece for the man and the woman is something that is a bad word: duty. Mm-hmm. There is a duty and a commitment that leads to a strong responsibility to make sure that this thing works. This is why the fame component group gets kicked out of high value discussions with me, because they have no sense of duty. They do what they want, when they want, how they want, without the fear of consequences. We see that with our athletes and our entertainers. We see that with some preachers. We see that with our politicians. And so, what
for the most part, I mean, I think there are exceptions.
Yeah, there are some good ones,
for sure.
but from an archetype standpoint, that's what we see, and that's why we remove them from the discussion. Right. So I tell people, if you want to get a great outcome, you got to elevate. So you got to get to man or woman status, and you got to determine where you want to be, whether it's modern, traditional, or high value. Otherwise, if you can draw the line to say, man, I'm not there yet, I'm a male, go to therapy, or go be with a female and be miserable until you elevate. And then that will get people closer to the relationship outcome, because then the fourth part of with who you qualify for and knowing what you want, that's when you start having to have discussions about things that are not about you. And selfishness is the main culprit that we find in business and that we find in relationships that keep people from getting the outcome that they want.
Absolutely. Selfishness, and I think not digging deep enough, which I'm sure is also what your books are about, because once you identify these archetypes, then you really get to go deep into your values and your purpose and your legacy, which are
the purpose and the legacy is really big. And, I'm a proponent of people going to get therapy with a licensed therapist or finding a coach to help them work through that. People who have dedicated, their lives and their profession to that aspect is what will really help unlock that. You can't get that from your friends. You can't get that from mom and dad. You have to get it for someone who's an objective third party who you pay, so that they have incentive to make sure you come back and that you get the outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because that's what John Gottman's research shows. He's studied couples over 40 plus years. And what really keeps couples together with that secure attachment, where they can actually survive enough to leave their legacy, which is better done with two people than on one's own, is shared values and shared legacy. And you really have to make sure that you want the same thing.
Well, remember, we talked about, we have a group of men and young women who don't believe that they can get that. So instead, they just don't try. And so instead of doing the work and figuring out how to get that attachment with the person, instead of doing the work to figuring out how they can leave their mark, they're just existing. And the system will allow you to exist. It's going to be expensive, but the system will allow you to just exist without asserting yourself and getting the profit that you need from the market. So.
Yeah, that's, if you don't do the deeper inquiry, which I'll acknowledge a lot of people are exhausted and, don't have the energy for the deeper inquiry. But this podcast is for the people that do, that actually want to grow and evolve themselves. And so I want to ask you, what do you believe that the goal of a relationship is ultimately?
I believe ultimate goal for a relationship is marriage. But I also believe that the ultimate goal of a relationship, if we're going past marriage, is
Yeah, like
service.
in service of, right.
Yeah, so it's in service. So when you look at being in service to another person, you have to die to self. And right now, all of that is clicking in the head of not your audience, but the people that sent this clip to them. They're like, I gotta die to self. Yeah, you have to die in order to gain. Because in the relationship, there are times that both when I was selfish, it did not go well for the relationship. But when we're covering each other, it goes better for both of us on the outcome, and it builds the intimacy in the relationship. But
Yeah.
if you miss the relationship component, you will just think it's all about you. And then, oh my God, if you happen to have a kid, you're going to get a rude awakening of life is not about you. And people
Yeah.
struggle for the first 10 years of that kid's life trying to figure out, why are things different now? Well, because it's been about you for 35 years, and now you got two little people that are depending on you. So now it's time for you to get away, get out of self, and get into the flow of what these two little people need.
Right. And a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, I have to be selfless. And that's not what it's about either. Because in
Mm-hmm.
order to be interdependent, which is not
Mm-hmm.
codependent or independent, you need to, prioritize yourself in order to then serve others, right? But that's not easy
Mm-hmm.
to do.
No,
So,
not with yeah, not with professional success. With professional success, you're always competing against the thing that gets lost as you start to elevate. And I don't think enough people talk about this, is self. You don't have
mhm,
time. Time becomes the most
right.
valuable commodity.
Yep.
And if you prioritize your significant other, your kids, your job, or career that's excelling, then you fall by the wayside. And you sometimes have to stop the other three and be like, all right, y'all got it, let me go recharge. I need a
Right.
self care day. Let me take PTO today or something like
Exactly.
that. Or so.
No, it's totally legit because I think that that is where people have struggled with the balance, myself and my husband included,
Mm-hmm.
is as we are serving others, how do we prioritize ourselves and not be selfish? And,
Mm-hmm.
that's a balance. And I know that you talk about that in your book. So let's talk about your book now. I know
Oh, okay.
that you have, well, two books, How to Get
Sure.
Great Dating Outcomes in a Modern World, parts one and two.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I know that in your book you go more deeply into these archetypes and how to move beyond them. So tell
Mm-hmm.
us, what else will people get out of reading the book?
I think the other thing people would get out of the book outside of the archetypes is getting a better understanding of what they're doing wrong. Because sometimes, as I said earlier in this discussion, it's everybody else. It can't be me. And it's always you. It is always you. And in the book, when you start talking about what do I want? And then it says, what do I qualify for? That exercise right
Hmm.
there will break you down. And it's a quick exercise. It's not intended to be, a 2 hour discussion. It's just meant to be taken out a sheet of paper and say, these are the things that I want. Everybody that's listening right now has made a list. Everyone that they've sent this to has made a list. It's easy to make a list of this is what I want. And then you start to say, all right, well, what do I qualify for? Well, I qualify for all this. Okay. So that person that you say you qualify for, what do they want from you? And when you start
Hmm.
looking at that, the answer can't be me. They want me. The answer can't be I am the table. The answer can't
Hmm.
be she just need to want me because I'm so stylish and I'm so fresh. No, it has to match the
Right.
list that you created. You have to be able to do all of those things as well.
Yeah.
And some, and do it with a selfless heart. So I
Yep.
think you're going to get something that's another bad word. It's going to be accountability. There's going to be an exercise that you have to do that hold yourself accountable to the things that you say are important, and then actually begin to live them.
Yeah, I know. And I love what you're saying because I think that it's a very intelligent way of looking at it, because I think a lot of people go with their feelings in relationship, and obviously
Hmm.
you need to pay attention to your feelings. They're a valid
Hmm.
component. But what you're saying is you have to look at what, what am I actually, which, sorry, you said it better than I, but of the deep work of the values and purpose and legacy I want to
Hmm.
lead, what kind of person do I want? But then what are they going to want from a partner? Not just like,
Yes.
I'm awesome, but what is that type of person going to want and need in order to have a successful partnership? And we need to be asking those questions, because I think a lot of people just go with their feelings and say, oh, well, I'm just awesome. And they don't do that deeper work. I mean, you are awesome. But at the
Hmm.
same
Yes, you're
time,
awesome. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. Yes, but
what kind of
what
person?
value do
Yeah,
you add, and what type of person are you? What personality do you have? What character do you have? What drive do you have? And does that drive match the person that you're looking for?
exactly. And so I think that your system is a really rational way of breaking that down, so that people can um, ask those deeper questions and not just get caught in their feelings and intuition in the dating world, because that's obviously a valid piece. But if that's all
Hmm.
you do and you don't do this intellectual work that you're talking about to look at what is my personality type, what are my deeper needs, what are my values, what do I
Hmm.
have to receive and give in a partnership in order for that to work for me, and then who am I attracted to and what do they need to receive and give in a partnership
Hmm.
in order for that to work for them? Unless
Hmm.
you do that, you're going to have a lot of surprises when you wind up committing to that person and unpleasant
Yes, you're gonna be
surprises.
like, is that what you like to do in the morning? Oh, that's your routine. No,
Right.
I mean, but seriously, from a just from a practical standpoint, I don't advocate ignoring the emotion, because your emotions or your feelings matter, because you have to. I say that feelings are the result of the work, the input. So happiness. People in North America get married because this person makes me happy. Happy is the most fleeting feeling.
Hmm.
So it takes more and more inputs to feel happy. We buy things, we consume things, we watch things, we drink things, we talk to things, we take things, and we're trying to get the happiness quotient. When you grow up and you start saying, okay, I can get I I'm generally a happy person, but things are hard. Work is hard. My boss is being difficult. My clients are being difficult. My business has a down quarter. COVID just happened, and you have to start operating even when you're not happy. And
Yep.
the bad thing that people come to realize when they make a buying decision and they get married is that it ain't about your happiness anymore. Happiness is a byproduct of what I say in marriage, of two people, a man and a woman, making a decision to commit, to choose each other every day, to make a plan and execute it. And then when things go well, okay, drop. Oh, okay, things went well here, drop. And then you look up over a 5 year period, and you're like, man, we've had a really blessed life. We've had a really good time doing all this. And it's not to say that you won't have challenges, because, like I said at first, most of your growth happens during periods of pain.
Right.
And if you're willing to go through the pain and not let it impact your mood to say, I'm no longer happy, I need to go find a new spouse, you will be rewarded on the back end with the outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, because happiness is an emotion and emotions are important, but we can't go
Mm-hmm.
chasing after emotions. If we really
Mm-hmm.
live true to our values and our plan, our shared plan, building secure attachment, and really tune into our purpose and our legacy, then happiness can be a byproduct. But I
Mm-hmm.
like to think that those are the things that make us fulfilled. Fulfillment is not necessarily an emotion. It's, as you said, the byproduct of
Byproduct. Yep.
those um, commitments, which can also be a dirty word,
Mm-hmm.
but not if you're willing to do the inner work to
You've said
find what's
about five
authentic.
dirty words: accountability, commitment, duty, selflessness. Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's a
I
lot.
know. And I think the key takeaway there is that they're only dirty words if you don't do the deeper work to figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to make those things authentic for you. Because I think people just go on the scripts that their parents or culture gave them, as
Mm-hmm.
to what those mean. and then they throw it out or they blindly accept it. And that's what leaves one at one of those immature archetype stages.
Yes, and I'll say this as we kind of look at it. You don't get time served for what your parents and grandparents did. It
Yeah.
was a different time and they had their own set of challenges, but they're not the same
Mhm.
challenges people face today. And maybe
Absolutely.
for some of the listeners, it's great grandparents. And if you try to run plays the way they ran plays, you're going to have failure. I honestly think that's what happened as I talk about how we got here in part one of the
Hmm.
book. That's what happened in the 80s. People were still trying to run the same play, and everything changed in North America. And
Yeah.
they were trying to run the play. I was blessed to have parents that adjusted the playbook often. So I saw the value of partnership in a relationship between a man and a woman and them making pivots as things changed and not
Right.
being tied to traditional gender roles, traditional responsibilities, traditional expectations, and actually living out the creed that we talk about over here on our side. We talk about the things of accountability, selflessness, duty, consistency, and commitment.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that I encourage everybody to read your book, How to Get Great
Mm-hmm.
Dating Outcomes in a Modern World, because your two books, because I'm sure you go deeper into how. I think you've done a great job here in explaining the why and a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of the what. But if people actually read your book, they'll really get exercises to clarify all of this for
Mm-hmm.
themselves, because I think that as I keep saying, I mean, in my coaching practice, of course, I guide people in doing inner work to clarify their values, vision, purpose, legacy, needs, all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I think it's really useful to have these archetypes, because the purpose of archetypes is to get insight. Like, oh my God, this guy is a city boy. He's not
Mm-hmm.
a man. And you can
No,
see it. And once you see it, it's undeniable. And that
I would
is.
tell it's undeniable. The best is when someone self discovers, oh, I'm
Mm,
city. Oh, I'm a female. I'm a male. I'm not even a man yet. No, you're not. And guess what? Welcome. We're here to help you. You got some people who love you and want to help you see this through and get to the next stage of life.
yeah,
So,
exactly. And as you said, there are brilliant coaches and therapists out there that
mhm.
whose mission is to help people get to that stage. I mean, I'm one of
Yes.
them, but there's many others.
Mhm.
And you said you weren't doing coaching anymore, which is why I'm not plugging that for you. But but I know you used to be a great coach, or consultant. So I really thank you for being on the show, because I think that your message is gonna stir the pot, wake a lot of people up to what they have been experiencing in the dating world, and that that's not all there is, and how to really do
Mhm.
the deeper work to discover what's possible for them.
Yes,
So
yes, and
thank you.
I have appreciated the time and the conversation, and I hope the audience has gained some insight from our discussion.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I hope everybody has that soul shaking love inspiration that they're looking for from this. And till next time.